Welcome back to the IE427 garage, everybody. We are working on a new project today, and we've actually been working on it since this past weekend. So, over the past weekend, the family that owns this car came down here, and we thought we'd kind of get a jump start. They had some time that they could come down here and visit the shop, and so wanting to make the most of it, we wanted to get as much stuff done on the car, and as much stuff that the car owner was apprehensive about. Basically, the stuff that kind of held him up on the build that he had a little bit of anxiety about. So we spent Friday and Saturday working on the car. I worked a little bit on the car on Sunday, but not a whole lot. And today is Monday. So I'm getting some stuff done around the shop. And I'm trying to get as much stuff done on this car in the next week, so that I can get it back off the lift, get the coupe back onto the lift, and get some work done on the coupe. So here's where we're at. When the owner moved from California to Oregon, I think, he had to pack up the entire car. And then moving to Oregon, where they live now, it took a while for them to get the house kind of all settled in, get all the stuff that needed to be set up in the house, repaired, whatever. I don't know exactly what there was, but it took them a while before he had the time to jump back into the car build. And by the time he got back to the car build, he'd kind of lost place on where he was at with the car. And it happens a lot. You even if you don't move, you stop working on the car for a month, and then a month turns to 2 months, turns to 4 months, turns to 8 months. And the next thing you know, it's been a year since you touched the car. And with each passing day, it gets harder and harder to get yourself out back into the build. So come back, I'm gonna show you what we got done, what I'm doing right now, and then what I plan to do over the next couple of days in order to get this thing kind of set so that we can pull it back off the lift and get the coupe back. All right, some of the most important, the most safety-related issues that we did during the time that the car owner was here is we did the brake lines, or we finished the brake lines. He had already mounted the brake calipers, he had got the brake caliper brackets, the soft hoses, the tabs for the transition fittings, all that kind of stuff in the car, and he had started on the front brake lines of the car. So let me climb over here. Actually, probably see it better over here because I got the F panel off, and I'll get to that in a minute too. So he basically came in here and he did the front brake line. So from the T-fitting there, down and back and across the 4-inch tube over here, and then up and over to this brake line here. So he did all that. The only thing he didn't do that we have since finished up was the 2 cushion clips. So there's one cushion clip over here, right here, and there's one cushion clip over here. And we got those installed while we had it up on the lift and we were working on it. Everything else, as far as brake lines, so everybody knows these armor-coated brake lines that Factory 5 supplies with the kit, we installed all those. So basically, from that T-fitting, which I'm not a fan of the T-fitting just because of the way it fits, but you know, this is what came with the complete kit. And so I'm going to use as much stuff as I possibly can that's contained in the complete kit. And that way I'm not wasting a bunch of money, you know, as the build goes on. Anyways, we've got I like to call it a shepherd's hook bent right there. Now, all these lines are still loose. So if I go in here, I can probably turn this one by hand. But we've just got them fit. They're screwed in far enough that we checked the fitment of all this stuff, and we managed to get everything strapped in place. So we've got, again, a couple of cushion clips, one there and one there. And you can see we've got the back line over here just loose. I'm going to caution you guys right here. Make sure you get your grommet where it goes through the panel installed now, before you finish the brake lines. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to go to put this panel, this closeout panel right here on, and you're going to have no way to protect that line. And so, you know, what are you going to do? Are you going to split the grommet in half and kind of wedge it in there? Better to put it on now, and then that way when this panel goes in, you can notch around it, and the grommet will save anything from kind of wearing through the brake line. So what we did on the front brake line is we kind of finished it up for the day, is we just took it, 90'd it up, and we put a vacuum cap on it. And then you can see over on the rear brake lines we did the same thing. And that's just to keep any dirt or debris out of the lines. And it's also to keep me from, you know, sending that brake line through my brain as I'm screwing around on the front of the car, don't see it. You know, the brake lines are sharp when you cut them off, and obviously you don't want to pierce yourself in the head with that. So I always put vacuum caps on them at the end of the day, just so that, you know, safety third. But so we got the front brake line in. Then what we did at the back, I always start from the brakes and I work towards the master. Now there's no rule that says you have to do it that way. I've just found, for me, it works better that way. And you can see we've got some vintage master cylinders in there. I don't even think these are available anymore. But so what we started on back here is we've got the two tabs that mount the brakes. So there's a tab there, and there's a tab in the same spot on the passenger side of the car over there. We got those mounted first. And then what we did is we mounted the T-fitting that goes on the back here. And this one actually works out really well. But got that T-fitting mounted, and then we bent a line here in the back. Now, if you're using these lines full length, you're gonna have to route your lines pretty much the way Factory 5 has them outlined in the assembly manual. If you do them like I did, or like we've done, you're gonna have to cut, and then you're gonna have to flare lines. And so if you're not comfortable flaring lines, you're more than likely gonna do it just the way it's outlined in the assembly manual, because if you do it that way, you're gonna use the whole length of the brake line. So if they've given you 60-inch brake lines, which they've done, it's going to use up pretty much all of that 60 inches from point A to point B. To me, it's not necessary to use the entire brake line. I'd rather go just from point A to point B, flare the end that I know I'm going to be cutting, and then it's finished and done. I don't have any excess brake line anywhere. It's going to be easier to bleed the brakes. It's going to be easier down the line if I ever have to replace anything. But if you're using all of the supplied brake line in the lengths that are prescribed in the assembly manual, you're going to have to make sure your routing is like or very close to what they outline in the assembly manual. Otherwise, you're going to end up with excess brake line. If you don't have the ability or the tools in order to, you know, flare brake lines, you're kind of screwed. So this one over here is all done. And we've got it in place, so it's right here. Now, everything's being held in place with Clecos right here at these brackets, because we're going to take those off and we're going to send them in to have them powder coated. This was an 11th hour thing. As we pulled them out of the package, I mentioned to the car owner that they are stainless, but they will rust. And I have an example over here to show you, because we've got some of the Willwood parts over here on the bench. And if we look at those, where are they? Right here. they already have surface rust on them. So you can see this is in the bag that it came in from Factory 5. And I think there might be surface rust on this one. Yeah, a little bit right there. So all this surface rust is from being in the bag, just being in storage. So we're going to have these blasted, and then they're going to be powder coated. And I've got a couple extra of these brackets here. I'm going to use the 3 that I have here, and I'll have to pull one off of the car. I'm going to clean these up and have these ready to be powder coated. And we've got a collection of other parts that we're going to send out powder coating as well. Now the panels for this car are going to stay raw. I talked it over with the car owner, and he likes the finish of the aluminum, and so that's his choice. We're going to, at most, before the car goes home, we'll take some Windex, or basically window cleaner, multi-purpose cleaner, and a Scotch-Brite pad, and we'll just clean all of the aluminum that way, and that'll give a nice, fresh, clean-looking aluminum for him when the car is delivered. But we're only powder coating those pieces that come from Factory 5 raw. And that's the hood hinges, the hood brackets, the trunk hinges, and the trunk brackets. Obviously those brake brackets. I've got a Coyote pedal adapter or pedal bracket that I pulled out of stock, and wouldn't you know it, the entire thing was bent backwards. So what I've done is I rebent this bottom portion here, so it's the right orientation now. I cut the bracket off the top. I'm going to take it over to my machinist, and I'm going to have him weld it, because this is stainless. I don't have a welder that will weld stainless, and I'm going to have him weld this like this. Before, it was on the other side, and it does not fit in the car. So it was like this before. And I think that's going to be cheaper. I do have a call out on the forum, not on the forum, on one of the Factory 5 builder pages or something, asking if anybody has an extra one, because that one came from the coupe. We don't need it on the coupe, but it's backwards. And so it's of no use to us in its current state until I get it rewelded. But if someone happens to, have one, I'm hoping that they'll, speak up, and hopefully I can get one for nothing, or maybe the price of shipping. And if that's the case, great. If not, I'll have to use this one. Because one did not come with this kit. It's an early enough Gen 1 Coyote kit from Factory 5 that those brackets weren't supplied then. Basically what they had you do is you cut off the bottom of the accelerator pedal, and you bolted half of their pedal to the side of it, and that's how you made the Coyote pedal work. I think that's kind of half-assed, and so I'm choosing to use the Gen 2, Gen 3 bracket for the electronic pedal, and I'm going to make that one work. But you can see all good deeds. And then I have a computer mount, again from the coupe, that we're not using. A fuse panel mount that we're not using, but this isn't needed in the Gen 1 Coyote kit, but regardless, we have one. And I'm taking all those parts, and I'm gonna have them powder coated. So let me put down the camera. I'm working on something right now. Let me get it kind of laid out, and I'll show you basically what I'm doing, because I'm going to be making some, well, they're not custom. We do them all the time, but our custom panels for the driver's side and passenger side, like firewall extensions. And then obviously you saw that the F panel is off of there. There's a reason for that, and I'll bring you back and I'll show you what's going on with that. All right, first things first, since I'm back here at the corner of the car, we are going to be replacing the fuel neck seal, because this one actually isn't too bad. It's not hard as a rock, but this is the generic replacement, probably from Dorman or Spectra or one of those. But what happens is you can see right in here the unevenness in the seal, and they're just prone to leak. And so I'd rather get a factory Ford Motorcraft piece and use that in place of this one and hopefully not have a leak. But another piece that we're going to have powder coated is this bracket right here. That'll go into the powder coater. And then over here what I'm working on is I'm working on a new F panel and then our 2 firewall extensions. So this is going to be on the driver's side. That'll be where our headlight switch and probably our indicator light for our Coyote will be for the multifunction indicator light for the computer. And then we've got a firewall extension that we're going to cut out here that will not have a hole in it. And then you can see right here, our panel right here, our F panel, was the older style that had the hole in it. So we don't need that. And I just as soon make a new panel and not have to deal with that hole and covering it up rather than, you know, putting or leaving this piece in and finding, you know, having those exposed rivets because they're going to be seen from one side or the other. And this way it'll be nice and clean. We'll cut that out and put it in the car and it'll be like the hole was never there. I think last week you saw I installed the drop trunk box in the car. The owners, when they showed up, they were tickled that it was in the car. This is one of the things that they mentioned they wanted to begin with. I explained to them that you know, I had a couple of boo-boos when I built this one, and they're good with that because it's all going to get covered. But we also talked about some other things, one of which is going to be where's the battery going to go? And we discussed all the options. And in the engine compartment with the Coyote, it starts to get really congested. So it's not as bad in the Mark IV Roadster as it is in the Mark V, from what I can see, or the Coupe, which isn't fun either. But we kind of talked ourselves out of doing a front battery mount. So since the brake line is already run across there, this will save us from having to redo that brake line because the front mount battery box would be right in that spot and we would have to relocate that brake line. But that wasn't our only issue. The car owners plan on taking this on trips, and the Mark IV trunk as delivered is not very big. So that's one of the reasons that we added our Cannonball drop box to the trunk. We're also going to put the small footprint battery over in the fender well here. So we're going to cut out the structure here. We're going to make our battery enclosure, and then we're going to rebuild the structure back here so that it will be able to support the weight of the battery. And that'll include, you know, notching around this and framing around that, and then obviously custom aluminum for the fender well. But in the end, it's going to allow them to utilize the entire trunk space, and they're also not going to have to deal with the battery in the front of the car. Now, you know, there are mixed opinions on where the battery should go in the car. And weight-wise, because this car is somewhat rear-heavy, putting it in the front makes sense. But the Coyote's a pretty big motor, and with all of the stuff that's in this car, it makes it kind of tough. And with the particular power steering pump that came with this kit, or what was ordered with this kit, it puts that power steering pump on the bottom right of that engine. So the passenger side lower section of the engine, kind of where the air conditioning compressor would be. And so that's right where the battery is going to be if you put it in the front. And so we thought about it, and we thought, you know what, we're just going to put it in the back, we're going to put it in the fender, it's going to be out of the way, we're going to spend a little bit more on a battery, it's going to be a higher quality battery though, and it's going to enable us to utilize the entire trunk space. So that's kind of what we come to the decision to on that. So the next thing was the fuel lines. That was another point of apprehension with the car owner. He was shipped the kit, and he told the people at Factory 5, it was actually Tony Zulo, that you know, he was doing a Coyote, and at that time, Factory 5 was not supplying Ford Coyote engines. So you had to basically get your own Coyote from, you know, Summit Racing, Jegs, or Mike Forte at Forte's Parts Connection. And then they would put together the engine, the harness, and alternator. There's some other stuff that you have to do. Only some of the supplemental stuff was supplied by Factory 5. In this case, we got a power steering pump that, again, we're going to have brackets powder coated, but all that stuff that came with the kit. And like I said, some of the stuff that, you know, we're used to getting on the later Coyote kits wasn't included then. And so he didn't get a fuel pump hanger. He didn't get a fuel pump. He basically got whatever was included in the complete kit. So he got a fuel pickup for the tank. He put that in. He also put in that membrane fuel filter that comes with the complete kit if you're like running a carburetor. Now that actual fuel filter is rated for EFI. However, the fuel components, some of the fuel components that come with the complete kit or did come with the complete kit at that time, I would say are questionable. And that's been true since the beginning, because you're talking about fuel systems that are, you know, upwards of 90 pounds of pressure with, you know, breeze clamps, you know, the screw down type clamps, even EFI clamps that come with the kit. I'm not too comfortable with, you know, just a clamp on an EFI line. I'd like to have something that's a little bit more high end, and so that's why one of the reasons that we have our fuel lines made, our steel braided lines made at a hose shop, because we know that they're not going to burst, they're not going to come apart, and they're not going to leak. But so he didn't get any of that stuff, and so now we're finding that we have to order not only a fuel pump but a fuel pump hanger. It's one of those things. Our favorite fuel pump hanger is no longer made. I haven't been able to log on to MassFlow, which became Pro-M, for a while. I think they may have gone out of business. And so there are other companies out there. There's a company called Quantum, and then there's some other companies that make like a high flow fuel pump hanger. But I'm gonna let you guys make your own decision. We actually found a place that's called, I think it's Fuel Pump Factory. And they make a hanger that's very similar to the one that we used to get from Pro-M or MassFlow. And they sell it in a kit where we can get it with a 255 liter per hour pump for about 220 bucks. So that's the direction that we're going. And we're gonna supplement the rest of the stuff with some of the stuff that we've already got on the car. And then obviously parts that we're gonna get from the hose shop. And then we're gonna have to get a fuel pressure regulator, because that didn't come with this kit either. So here are the lines that we ran over the weekend. And let's see if I got a light here. So you can see up in there, we've got our fuel lines running to the back of the car. Come back here. So they run back here, and then they 90 up right here. And then if you look right there, you can see the fittings. So I've got two fittings there. I've got one more strap that need to go in. And the biggest thing with these is you want to make sure that your fittings, when you're done, are not going to get into any of the suspension. And those are going to end up flat against that 2x3 square tube right there, rectangular tube. And so they'll be well out of the way by the time we get them all finished up. So we got those run, and out here in the engine bay, we've just got them stubbed up. No strap or anything on them yet. We may end up bending those back towards the heater, and that'll give us a little better angle to our fuel pressure regulator and kind of get the top of the foot boxes to have better access, because we've still got a wiper motor that's got to go up in there, and we've got quite a bit of electronics. I don't know, we're probably going to end up using the ECU mount that I pulled out of stock upstairs, and that'll mount the Ford Control Pack ECU right here. But we do have a fuse box or a control box, and that has to go down here too somewhere. So we may end up using that other bracket that I have up there. It all depends on whether the holes line up or not. But that's where the control for the fan is, and we need to get that so that we can power the fan that's going to go in this. So there's going to be some stuff that goes on the top of this foot box, and so I want to leave that as clear as possible. So these will probably get bent back, but it wasn't an issue for now. That we just wanted to get the fuel lines in and run so that they were ready to go when we needed to get, you know, the rest of the work done on this car. We did get one of our firewall reinforcement brackets in. So I took out my pattern, we bent one of those up. Those are for sale on our Facebook page. So if you need one of these for a Mark IV or before, we've got them, and we can get one of those sent out to you. We got the steering wheel and the steering shaft pulled apart. We're lucky, this thing has been sitting for almost 10 years, and we managed to get the steering shaft out without too much trouble. But you can see, even under that thin layer of axle grease that I put on there, the rust that had already developed on these parts. And so what I did is I took the flap wheel and the grinder, I softened the edges right here where the two pieces go together, because the lower shaft is an extruded piece and has rounded corners, and this piece is a machine piece and has sharp corners. And so when they go together, they can fuse themselves together pretty easy. So I always just take a little bit of time and I round over those edges so the pieces go together really easy. And you can see right now, this will go in and out without too much effort. And so therefore, when we go to put our turn signal and everything else in, we'll have an easy time getting everything adjusted, and then it'll end up getting tightened up with the two Belleville washers that go down in there. And there's a couple of set screws on the pillow block right here that'll tighten it in place. So we got that stuff done. So let me put the camera down. I want to get these pieces cut out. I want to get these pieces cut out today. And then I don't know that the F panel will go back in the car today, but I want to at least get it cut out. And then I've got those other two pieces for the firewall that I'm going to get cut out as well. Music update. Van Halen, Everybody Wants Some. I didn't realize how long this video was going to be if I don't break it into two. So I'm gonna end the video here. We'll catch up next week exactly where we left off, and I'll give you a little sneak peek of the following video because I'm already working on that. I'm working on getting the Coyote accelerator pedal and pedal bracket installed so that I can get the bracket sent out for powder coating. So if you are enjoying the content here, as always, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.